Hello, welcome to Offshore Audio. I'm Andrew. Today I'm just going to take you through a small video I made on sort of signal flow within the console using the solo button, or the PFL button as it's sometimes known. That's just the button, if you don't know, that lets you listen to what's coming in or out of a specific channel without having any change to the front of house mix. You can hear it on your headphones or just see it on the meter. So without further ado, let's jump in and see how we use that. So I thought I would talk a little bit today about using the PFL or the solo meter and metering in general to trace the signal through a console. It can be quite easy to lose a signal inside a console, so the metering really helps you find out where problems are inside the routing of the console. So let's have a look. Here I've got a channel that I've got an input set into. So as you probably know, you can press the solo button and see the input of the channel displayed on the solo meter here. If the channel is down, if the channel is muted, you still see the input. So if we bring the channel up, now we're sending it to the master fader. You can even solo that, and you can see that although the master is down and muted, the solo meter still shows input. So I know if I unmute my master and turn it up, these meters here are showing me the output of my master fader. Now I'm sending sound to the speakers. Great, fantastic. So what about other places in the desk? What about monitors, for example? Let's turn this off then. And let's go back to our channel. Let's turn this off and mute it. Okay, my monitor is set up as a pre-fade send. Let's find out about how that works with our metering as well. So I'm going to select my channel and I'm going to send it into my monitor, this channel here. You can see it's turned up when I do sends on fader as well. I solo it and I see nothing. That's because this channel is on mute. When I unmute it, you see, because I have soloed my monitor bus, I can see how much of this signal is reaching the monitor. When I turn this one up, it doesn't actually affect how much is going into the monitor. Now, how do we see if we're outputting from the monitor? So if I unmute my monitor, which I know is receiving signal because of my solo button here on my monitor bus is receiving signal from this input channel, which is just some music. I turn it up, it's unmuted. How do I know there is sound coming out? That's where we need to find the other meters on our console. Up here, I have a meters button. You'll have meters somewhere on your console for your buses. Doesn't matter what type of console it is, you'll find a meter somewhere. So I go in here. If I look at my channels, these are my inputs. That's what I'm playing music from. This is my mix bus, which I know I'm getting sound to because of this solo. If I go to my outputs, you can see down here on output 1, that's where I can see that my monitor bus is leaving the console on output 1. Pretty handy. Good to be able to diagnose problems. So let's reset everything again. Let's look at a different scenario with a post fader send. How about effects? Let's look at our effects bus. I'm going to just take this out of the monitor to begin with. Here's my effects bus. I'll just select it and use sends on fader, and I will turn my input channel up, my music. So I'm now sending the music to the effects bus. Great. Let's solo it, but I see nothing. Why do I see nothing? Because it's a post fader send. If I look back at my input channel, it's muted. If I unmute it, I would have seen the signal by now on the pre-fader send, but because it's post-fader, I need to bring up the input channel to see the input on my effects bus. Great. So where does that effects bus go? It's still muted, it's still turned down. So we need to unmute that and turn it up. But there's more to it because it's an effects bus. Remember, we're looking at metering here, but we need to find our effects unit and look at the meters on the effects unit. The effects unit is also muted. So we can see here that there's input into the effects unit from our effects bus. Great. If I mute this effects bus, it all dies out. So it's reaching this meter here. These are the output meters of our effects unit, but these are muted. Where do we find them? Let's go to our effects returns over here. You see here, if I solo these effects returns for effects 1, effects 1, effects 1, just as we see here, the output channel with the solo button, I can see that my signal is reaching my effects output channel, my effects return. So back to our meters. Let's say I'm not hearing my effect. I've turned it up here. I wish I was hearing it, but I'm not. Navigate to your effects channel and you can solo it and see if it's actually reaching it. If not, you can diagnose that problem. Now to add it to the mix, we just need to unmute it and bring it up. Now, of course, this is about the end of where we can trace this because it's a post fade send. It needs to be in the front of house mix with everything else up. So if I turn this front of house mix up, you'll see now that my faders for my effects affect the level of my front of house. You could even mute the front of house and use the solo and you would still see the effects now are reaching front of house. So what's the takeaway here? Use your solo button to follow where the signal goes and find where it's stopping. Your input, I've got signal. Are you sending it to an effects unit? Signal's here. Is it reaching an effects return? Signal's there. And then you can have this muted, solo it, listen on headphones, turn this up, and you can hear your effects. I hope that was helpful. I'll do a video on routing inside the console as well, I think. How you change things within the console and how it's not cemented in place. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that helpful. Hopefully you saw some ways that you could use this function. Maybe you don't use them this way already. Really great for seeing if your bus is set to pre or post fader and solving any signal flow problems within the console as well as looking at outputs. If you want to know more about the stage in general, everything on it, I've got a free workshop where I just cover everything on the stage. Really great if you know what you're doing a little bit, but you don't know everything on the stage. Check that one out. I'll link to it in the description down below. As well as that, if you could like and subscribe this video, I'd really appreciate that. It helps me know if you find it interesting or useful and, you know, tells the YouTube algorithm to show it to more people. On top of that, I'm probably going to do another video next week on signal flow within the console. So perhaps on how you get everything into the console and out of the console, you know, the kind of in and out as opposed to the internal signal flow. So hopefully we'll see that next week. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.